My name is Sante J Achille, and this is SEO in 2023.
Sante, what is your number one SEO tip for 2023?
In a nutshell, I would say think like a machine.
Think like a machine. Yeah.
Think like a machine.
What does that mean?
That's kind of a difficult, that is a challenge. Think like a machine stems from a paradigm shift, I believe, where if you really want to try and manage SEO at a certain level in terms of quality and understanding really, or trying to understand what is really happening, you need to delve into the details of the nuts and bolts of SEO and understand the basics, what is really driving the fundamentals upon which the algorithms have actually been built up. So sort of like start at the very beginning, natural language processing, understand what is behind natural language processing. Obviously, not everybody can tackle it at the level of, let's say, of sophistication that it might be required. There's a lot of mathematics involved in there. There is computer science. I think everybody can do their best to push the envelope, to push their limits up to a point where they really feel like maybe they can't take anymore. But I'm sure that once they go down this path, they will really understand what's going on, really get a feel for what's going on. And that might encourage them to continue, because it is a difficult path. It is indeed very difficult for somebody who especially does not have a technical background. But it is the way to go if you really want to understand, or try to understand, because it's not always possible to understand exactly what is going on. But if you want to at least try to understand the direction, the globe, the general direction in which you're moving, that is definitely what you need to do.
Okay, so think like a machine. How have the machines changed the way they think, if we can use a word like that, recently? How has the way
that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's quite an interesting question. Let's say in the some years back, if you study, let's say if you go back and you really study the basics of what natural language programming was, etc., and certain things like if anybody starts venturing off on this path, they'll read of things called, for example, bag of words. So there was a time where articles and so-called stop words, a, the, them, etc., were excluded because search engines couldn't really understand them. Now we're at the point where they can actually understand a sentence as it is. So there's been quite a jump in terms of evolution of the algorithms. So they are smarter in this respect. They have become very much smarter for example, with the BERT algorithm. There's a very interesting video from Google. In fact, if anybody would like to just Google BERT, the BERT algorithm, and this video comes up. It's very interesting. It's very simple. No technical jargon there. Anybody can really understand it and sort of like embrace a bit, the philosophy and the approach.
So I'm just wondering which path to take down from what you've shared there, and I think I'll go down the route of you saying that bots can understand sentences. So they're getting a lot better at understanding natural human writing. Does this mean that it's not really necessary anymore to incorporate keyword phrases that you've researched within that natural writing?
That's an excellent question, and the answer is no. It is still necessary. You definitely want to look at that. And here's a tip, for example, to understand how far a search engine has developed the understanding for a certain niche, because things can change significantly. There is no one size fit all, shall we say, on this algorithms. Verticals, different businesses will have a different way of behaving. It will be processed differently. So the best thing to do is actually to research the SERPs. Put a lot of work. This is my recommendation. You have a certain list of terms that you know that work. For instance, your client comes back with a set of terms that are they're money terms. They know that these terms are converting from the analytics. You want to go to the SERP and actually look at that SERP and see how many other of their competitors actually are using those keywords. And if you move away from that keyword a little bit, slightly, so changing it slightly, having the same meaning, but changing the keyword, see if the same pages show up on the different SERPs. They may change. That will give you a clue, a signal that if they are shifting, then there is a difference. Fortunately, the algorithm has the ambition to be, to fully understand even the small differences. But obviously, it's an algorithm and it can fail. Definitely, you need to look at those phrases and you need to look at the system. So the pages that are ranking, try to understand the intent that is behind those pages. So you might have a main phrase that you're looking for. There are going to be other concepts around that phrase that push it, that Google understands. People who are searching for that phrase are interested not only in that phrase, but all the concepts that are, let's say, the satellite concepts surrounding that main concept that is the focus of that particular SERP.
So a bit of a general question for you. What are the trends that you're seeing in the SERPs? What's Google preferring to rank at the moment?
A bit of everything, actually, especially if they are not sure about your intention. So if the query that you are throwing at them does not for some reason disclose a clear intent, then you will see that SERP populated with different things that are related to the search that you have done, but they can be completely different. So it's no longer a case of looking at that SERP and searching for some kind of a signal or a clue chain of some kind. A thread of some kind that connects them, because they can be totally unrelated. And this will definitely depend on the menu, the options that Google sees as the best options around which, they can develop an understanding for your query to answer in the best possible way your question. So they'll give you a menu, sort of like.
Does Google infer intent from search history?
Yes. Yes,
I love definitive answers.
You'll definitely see by by clicking. That's what, for example, I have maybe 10 browsers here because I always try to avoid doing any clicking on the SERPs, on the search results.
So 10 browsers or 10 tabs? Actually 10 browsers, 10 different browsers.
No, browsers. Yes, different browsers that I put behind proxy when I have to search in different countries, and just try to understand have a general picture, which obviously is not going to be an accurate one. It's going to be a general picture, because what I see is going to be different from the general picture, which is going to be different from what you see. It is going back to 2022 and the uncertainty principle that we spoke about last year. It still reigns sovereign, definitely. We need to take the order of magnitude of things, I think. This is I think to survive and to make a sustainable, stable proposition, a stable SEO strategy needs to be based, according to me, on this uncertainty kind of principle as a driver.
Sticking with intent, there are some tools that make an automated, educated guess at what intent is likely to be behind a keyword phrase. Are these tools reliable for that? And what is your preferred way of defining intent for a keyword phrase, and what do you do as a result of defining intent?
My guide is the Search Console. I'll write, or somebody will write, and I'll optimize a piece, let it brew, go back to the Search Console for after maybe a month, and see the search terms that Google has actually proposed the page for, and see how many times the metrics, so your clicks, your impressions, your click-through rate, and see how they actually fit into the picture, the bigger picture of what the page looks like or reads. Is it actually matching the intentions that we had when we wrote that piece? Do they actually fit the queries, the searches that Google has associated to my page? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. If it does, fine. If it's not showing up, then it means we need a bit more of a boost. We might need to do some link building. We'll need to do some promoting on that page. We'll need to give it a bit more of a push. But it may also be going off in the wrong direction. That means that the algorithm is failing me. It's not completely understanding what I really wanted to say on that page. So I have to go back to the drawing board and tweak it. Well, that's where, let's say, your SEO skills need to be, particularly sharp, and have that intuition, to understand how to align your content to the search terms that you really want the page to really line up with. And here's another tool that I definitely use alongside, obviously, with Majestic. It is the Grammarly tool. I use it on everything, or even if a piece is written properly. At times it comes back with some suggestions, and I use those suggestions more often than not because they're coming from a machine. So the machine is telling me where it is not clear what I have written, although it may read properly to me. I will, within limits obviously, reshape the phrase, rewrite it, cut it into pieces, remodulate it, so that the AI of Grammarly or equivalent actually understands it, and they tell me that, okay, it's good. If that AI actually understands it, then I'm a little bit more confident that when Google will read it, or Bing, they will probably understand it just as well as the Grammarly AI has.
I love that piece of advice, actually. I know I've experimented with Grammarly a little bit in the past. I haven't really actively used it. I'm not actively using it on a regular basis. Most of the time I'm comfortable with what I'm writing, but I shouldn't be comfortable with what I'm writing for me. I'm writing, of course, for my target user base, but as you articulate really well, I'm also writing for the machines to be able to understand me. And if I'm not doing that effectively, and then I'm not doing a good job. And Grammarly is almost a replacement for the search engines, for Googlebot or other bots that are viewing the content. It's a proxy. That's the word that I was looking for. It's a proxy,
yes,
for
you could say
other
it's
bots.
A proxy, yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
and if it understands, then other bots are much more likely to understand as well. So yeah, wonderful point. Sante, you've shared what SEOs should be doing in 2023. So now let's talk about what SEOs shouldn't be doing. So what's something that's seductive in terms of time, but ultimately counterproductive? Something that SEOs shouldn't be doing in 2023? I
think there is a trend for people to actually use a lot of tools because it has become so complicated, and because the marketing has been very aggressive, I think, in terms of promoting tools. There are a lot of tools out there, and they all have an incredible amount of information that they share. I'm not here to say that it's wrong. I'm just here. What I see people actually do is go down different rabbit holes, chasing details that I don't believe are really relevant. Let me give you an example about this. A very, very talented SEO that I would like to mention, and who's also a friend, John Brizios, who unfortunately passed away earlier this year. He was one of the best, I think, SEOs I've ever seen. And he was very meticulous about his work. Very. He lived in a website. When you live in a website the way John would, then the extreme details become important because he had all of his bases covered. But when you have a website where the structure is all over the place, your client doesn't listen to you, they write things in a different way, the server is slow, your core web vitals are not working, it doesn't really make sense to start looking at the tens of signals that, many of the tools, without mentioning them, they send you off. I feel that there is a bit of a sort of like one of the 7 hooks that we've been hardwired with, the alarm one, you see. So create alarm, create this sense of agitation, where you need to act on all of these things. And so sort of like hooking people onto the fact that, there's so much that has to be done in all of these little things. But unfortunately, if you put all of your energy into all of these little things, your day's just going to go one after another, and you're going to miss the forest. You're going to look at the trees, but you're going to miss the forest.
Wise words. Wise words. Sante J Achille is a search marketing consultant, and you can find him over at achille.name. Sante, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2023.
Thank you very much, David. A pleasure to be here.
Get your copy of SEO in 2023, the book, over at SEOin2023.com.